Manisa, Turkish pronunciation, maʻnisa, is a large city in Turkey's Aegean region and the administrative seat of Manisa Province. Modern Manisa is a booming center of industry and services, advantaged by its closeness to the international port city and the regional metropolitan center of İzmir, and by its fertile hinterland rich in quantity and variety of agricultural production. In fact, İzmir's proximity also adds a particular dimension to all aspects of life's pace in Manisa, in the form of a dense traffic of daily commuters between the two cities, separated as they are by a half-hour drive served by a fine 6-lane highway, nevertheless requiring attention at all times due to its curves and the rapid ascent. Sea level to more than 500 meters at Sabuncubeli Pass, across Mount Sipylus's Mythic Scenery. The historic part of Manisa spreads out from a forested valley in the immediate slopes of Sipylus mountainside, along Kabasi stream which flows next to Niyabi's Weeping Rock, Aglayankaya, an ancient bridge called the Red Bridge, Kırmızı Köprü, as well as to several tombs shrines in the Turkish style dating back to the Saruhan period, 14th century. Under Ottoman rule in the centuries that followed, the city had already extended into the undulated terrain at the start of the plain. In the last couple of decades, Manisa's width more than tripled in size across its vast plain formed by the alluvial deposits of the River Gediz, a development in which the construction of new block apartments, industrial zones and Ifsel Al-Baya University campus played a key role. The city of Manisa is also widely visited, especially during March and September festivals, the former festival being the continuation of a 500-year-old mezir paste distribution tradition, and also for the nearby Mount Sipylus National Park. It is also a departure point for other visitor attractions of international acclaim which are located nearby within Manisa's depending region, such as Suds and Alasya. Ancient Philadelphia. Inland, there is a Jewish community. Name and etymology. Historically, the city was also called Magnesia, and more precisely as Magnesia ad Sipylum to distinguish from Magnesia on the meander at a relatively short distance to the south. Traditional view held that the name Magnesia derived from the tribe of Magnetes who would have immigrated here from Thessaly at the dawn of the region's recorded history. A connection with native Anatolian languages has also been suggested of recent date, particularly on the basis of discoveries made in the Hittite archives treating the Lu in western Anatolia. The name is rendered as mu alpha gamma nu eta sigma iota alpha in ancient and modern Greek language. The name Magnesia ad Sipylus refers to Mount Sipylus, Mount Sipyl, that towers over the city, and Magnesia became a city of importance starting with the Roman dominion, particularly after the 190 BC Battle of Magnesia. The names Sipylus or Sipylum, in reference to a settlement here, are also encountered in some sources, again in reference to the mountain and as abbreviated forms. Pliny the Elder, supported by other sources, mentions that formerly in the same place was a very celebrated city which was called Tantalus, or the city of Tantalus, whose ruins were still visible around his time. Under Turkish rule, the name attached to the Bezo of Saruhan, who founded the Beylik which preceded the Ottomans in the region, has been officially used, along with the name Manisa, for the city and the region alternatively, and this until the present period of the Republic of Turkey. The Ottoman Turkish form of the name of Manisa was usually as it is still used presently, but a spelling with a longer first syllable, transcribed to modern Turkish as Magnisa, was also occasionally encountered during the first centuries of the Ottoman Empire. Many of the sons of sultans received their education in Manisa, and the city is still commonly known in Turkey as the City of Shahzades. Cesar de la Seri, a distinctive title it shares only with Amasya and Trabzon. The English-language root word magnesia, from which the words magnet and magnetism, and numerous other derivations were coined, as well as their equivalents in many other languages, may derive from the city's name. History. Prehistory. Traces of prehistory in the Manisa region, although few in number, nevertheless include two very interesting finds that shed much light on Western Anatolia's past. The first are the fossilized footprints, numbering more than 50 and dated to around 20.00025. Discovered in 1969 by MTA, Turkey's state body for mineral exploration, in Sindel village near Manisa''s depending district of Salalian, referred to under that village's name. Some of these footprints are on display today in Manisa Museum, while their site of origin of Sindel, where there are also prehistoric paintings, will reportedly become Turkey's first geopark through a joint project with the European Commission. The second finds are tombs contemporaneous with Troy II, 3000–2500 BC, and found in the village of Yortan near Kirkagik district center, north of Manisa. Original burial practices observed in these sepulchres led scholars to the definition of a Yortan culture in Anatolia's prehistory, many of whose aspects remain yet to be explored. Luwians, Hittites, Phrygians and Lydians. Central and southern parts of western Anatolia entered history with the still obscure Luwin kingdom of Arzawa, probably offshoots, as well as neighbors and, after around 1320 BCE, vassals of the Hittite Empire. Cybele monument located at Akpina on the northern flank of Mount Sipylus, at a distance of 7 kilometers, 4 miles, from Manisa on the road to Turgutluis, along with the King of Mira rock relief at Mount Nif near Kemalpasa and a number of cuneiform tablet records are among the principal evidence of extension of Hittite control and influence in Western Anatolia based on local principalities. Cybele monument by itself represents a step of innovation in Hittite art where full-faced figures in high relief are rare. The first millennium BC saw the emergence in the region of Phrygians and Meonians, the accounts concerning which are still blended with myths, and finally of Lydians. Such semi-legendary figures like the local ruler Tantalus, his son Pelops, his daughter Niobe, the departure of a sizable part of the region's population from their shores to found, according to one account, the future Etruscan civilization in present-day Italy, are all centered around Mount Sipylus, where the first urban settlement was probably located, and date from the period prior to the emergence of the Lydian Mermnad dynasty. It has also been suggested that the mountain could be the geographical setting for Baucis and Philemon tale as well, while most sources still usually associate it with Tiana, Hittite Tuwanua, in modern-day Kemahisa near Nigd. In the early 7th century BC, the Lydians under the newly established Mermnad dynasty, with the present-day Manisa region as the heartland, expanded their control over a large part of Anatolia, ruling from their capital, Esfand, Sardis, situated more inland at a distance of 62 kilometers, 39 miles, from Manisa. The vestiges from their capital which reached our day bring together remains from several successive civilizations, Hellenistic, Roman and Byzantine periods. In classical antiquity, the city was known as Magnesia ad Sipylum and played an important role in the history of the epoch, by being the place where, in 190 BC, Antiochus the Great was defeated in the Battle of Magnesia by the Roman Empire. It became a city of importance under the Roman dominion and, though nearly destroyed by an earthquake in the reign of Tiberius, was restored by that emperor and flourished through the Roman Empire. Lost by the Byzantine Empire in 1076 to the Seljuks in the aftermath of the Battle of Manzikert. The subsequent Crusader victory at the Battle of Dorylaeum, 1097, allowed Manisa to be recovered by the Emperor Alexios I. It was an important regional center through the Byzantine Empire, and during the 13th century interregnum of the Empire of Nicaea, Magnesia housed the imperial mint, the imperial treasury, and served as the functional capital of the empire until the recovery of Constantinople in 1261. Ruins of the Nician-era fortifications attest to the city's importance in the late Byzantine period, a fact also noted by the Byzantine historian George Acropolites, writing in the 13th century. Turkish era, Seljuk, Saruhan and early Ottoman periods. In the early 13th century the region of Magnesia was subject to repeated raids by invading Turkish bands. The local population was unable to repulse the Turkish raids. Thus, after an unsuccessful defense led by the Byzantine emperor, most inhabitants fled to the Aegean coast and the European part of the Byzantine Empire. As a result of the Turkish invasion in the region and the destruction of the city, the area was largely abandoned. In 1313, Manisa became a permanent Turkish possession when taken by the Beylik of Saruhan, led by the Bey of the same name who had started out as a tributary of the Seljuks and who reigned until 1346. His sons held the region until 1390, when the first incorporation of their lands into the expanding Ottoman state took place. After a brief interval caused by the Ottoman interregnum after the Battle of Ankara, Manisa and its surroundings definitely became part of the Ottoman Empire in 1410. Even during the 15th century, Magnesia was recorded as being in complete ruins due to the previous Turkish raids. As the central town of the Ottoman Empire's Saruhan Sanjak, the city became the training ground for Shahzades, crown princes, and it stood out as one of the wealthiest parts of the empire, with many examples of Ottoman architecture built in a practice started by Murad II in 1437. 15 members of the Ottoman dynasty, including two among the most notable, namely Mehmed II and Suleiman I, held the administration of the city and of its dependencies in 17 near-continuous periods, until 1595. Although the Sanjak of Saruhan officially depended the Ayale of Anadolu with its seat in Kütahya, a large degree of autonomy was left to the princes for them to acquire the experience of government. This practice was discontinued in 1595, largely due to the growing insecurity in the countryside, precursor of Gelali revolts, and a violent earthquake dealt a severe blow to the Manisa region's prosperity the same year. Around 1700, Manisa counted about 2,000 taxpayers and 300 pious foundations. Vakif shops was renowned for its cotton markets and a type of leather named after the city. Large parts of the population had begun settling and becoming sedentary, and the city was a point of terminus for caravans from the east. With Izmir's growth still in its early stages, but already during the preceding century, influent Western merchants such as Orlando, often in pact with local warlords such as Senatoglu, a brigand, sometimes cited as one of the first in line in Western Anatolia's long tradition of Ephes to come, who in the 1620s had assembled a vast company of disbanded Ottoman soldiers and renegades and established control over much of the fertile land around Manisa. had triggered a movement of more commercially sensitive Greek and Jewish populations towards the port city. Late Ottoman Manisa. Between 1595 to 1836, the Sanjak of Saruhan, Manisa, remained attached to the Ayale of Anadolu, as in the time of the Ottoman crown princes. Between 1836 to 1867, the city and its depending region was made part of the short-lived Ayale of Aydın, which became a vilayet with the administrative reforms of 1867. During this phase, Saruhan, Manisa, even had an Ayale of its own under its name as the Ayale of Saruhan. Between the even shorter period 1845 to 1847, the seat of the province to which Saruhan Sanjak depended was the city of Aydın. 1827 to 1841 and 1843 to 1846. At first, and was later moved to İzmir. 1841 to 1843, 1846 to 1864. Manisa was one of the first cities in the Ottoman Empire to benefit from the arrival of a railway line, with the 93 kilometers, 58 miles, Smyrna-Kasaba Railway, whose construction was started from İzmir in 1863 and which reached its first terminus at Manisa's depending Kasaba in 1866. This railway was the third started within the territory of the Ottoman Empire at the time and the first finished within the present-day territory of Turkey. Instead of being laid along the direct route eastwards from İzmir to Kasaba, about 50 kilometers in length, the line built drew a wide arc advancing first to the northwest from İzmir, through its Karsiyaka suburb to whose foundation it contributed greatly, and curves eastwards only from Menmenon, crossing the former Sanjak and the present-day province center of Manisa to join Kasaba, now Turgutlu, from the north. The first concession under the name was granted to a locally based English entrepreneur named Edward Price, who founded the company and built the line. This railway was extended further east by the same company between 1872 to 1875 to reach Al-Azhar, a distance of 76 kilometers, 47 miles, from Kasaba, and a connection northward starting from Manisa itself was built between 1888 to 1892. Reach the lignite-rich Soma, another dependency of Manisa, through her 92 kilometers, 57 miles, line. Price sold the whole network in 1893 to the Franco-Belgian group Compagnie Internationale des Wagons Lits, which extended it further east to Afyonkarahisar in 1896 and further north to Bandırma in 1912. The line was nationalized in 1934 by the young Republic of Turkey in the frame of a general move started in the 1920s regarding Turkey's railways. 20th century. Manisa was temporarily occupied by the Greek army on May 26, 1919 during the Greco-Turkish War, 1919 to 1922, before finally being recaptured by the Turkish army on September 8, 1922. The retreating Greek army burned the city. Over 90% of Manisa was destroyed by the retreating Greek army as part of the scorched earth policy. James Loder Park, the U.S. vice-consul in Constantinople at the time, who toured much of the devastated area immediately after the Greek evacuation, described the situation in the surrounding cities and towns of İzmir he has seen as follows. Manisa, almost completely wiped out by fire. 10,300 houses, 15 mosques, 2 baths, 2,278 shops, 19 hotels, 26 villas, destroyed. Patrick Balfour, 3rd Baron Conross wrote, out of the 18,000 buildings in the historic holy city of Manisa, only 500 remained. Quote, Manisa was rebuilt and became the center of Saruhan province in 1923 under the new Turkish Republic. The province's name was changed to Manisa, as was the city itself. In 1927. Climate. Manisa has a Mediterranean climate with hot, dry summers lasting a long time and winters being short and cool. Summers in Manisa are hotter than the coast, with its western neighbor İzmir lying on the Aegean Sea, and winters being colder due to its inland location. Architectural landmarks. The 16th century Sultan Mosque was built for Aisha Hafsar Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent's mother, in her honor. Mezir Festival, featuring the mezir paste, Turkish mezir makunyu, a spiced paste in the form of candy, and claimed to restore health, youth and potency, is held every year in March, in the grounds of this mosque, and is an occasion for public gathering as well as attendance by personalities of fame and prominence at national scale. The mosque is part of a large Kuliyua religious complex, among whose buildings the hospital, Dara Shifa, is particularly notable. Specialized in mental diseases. The medical center was in activity until the beginning of the 20th century, when new buildings were built within the same compound. That Turkey's only two institutions specialized on mental health were until recently located in Istanbul district of Bakırköy and in Manisa, gave way in Turkey's public law to gentle innuendos on the challenging spirit of the natives, Manisali. One such likable eccentric of the 20th century was Ahmet Bedevi, the Tarzan of Manisa, or Manisa Tarzani, a figure who became a symbol for the city by contributing to raising consciousness for protection of the environment across Turkey, and a reference especially since the 1960s, when an importation reforestation effort covering thousands of hectares was made in and around Manisa. The Meridia Mosque of the 16th century was built by the great architect Mimar Sinan, and completed by Sadefka Mehmed Aga, and the Murad Bey Madres now houses the Archaeological Museum of Manisa. Manisa celebrates the Vintage Festival every September, when the fruits of the vineyards are celebrated. The vineyards surround the city and provide dry fruit for export from İzmir, and grapes for winemaking. Modern Manisa. Manisa and some of its depending district centers have succeeded in solidly clinching an industrial production base in recent decades. In this, supported both initially and continuously by the century-old wide-scale agricultural processing and related activities, production of flour and olive oil, basic textiles, leather goods, agricultural tools and instruments, cotton ginning. According to the figures published by the governorship, 694 companies in Manisa province out of the province's total number of companies of 5,502. For 2007 are certified industrial enterprises, and these employ a total of 44,449 people. Within the 694, Manisa Center is in the lead with 238 enterprises engaged in industrial production, with the depending centers of Turgutlu, 125 industrial enterprises, Akhisar, 100, Saleli, 78, closely contending, and Saruhanli, 33, Alashir, 30, Kula, 28, Demirci, 20, and Soma, 17, following. Among leading industrial activities, Manisa companies are engaged in a production of foodstuffs, 196 companies, building materials, 114, metal goods, 85, as well as textile industry and clothing industry, 46, and cotton ginning, 43. The highest numbers of workforce are concentrated in electronics, electrical appliances, foodstuffs and construction industries. The choice of Manisa as production base in the 1980s by the Turkish consumer electronics and white goods giant Vestel was an important boost for the present-day level of sophistication. Today Manisa's economic activities are far from being confined to a sole company. Manisa registered roughly $200 US in FDI in 2004, and well-known businesses such as Italian white goods company Indesit, German electrical goods company Bosch, UK packaging company Rexam and Imperial Tobacco of the UK have invested in Manisa. In 2004-2005, Manisa was chosen among 200 contestants as the most cost-effective European city by the FDI magazine's yearly round of votes to determine European cities and regions of the future. Its extremely low office and industrial rents and competitive labor costs having been particularly noted. Again for 2006-2007. Manisa was named among 89 European cities as the winner of the category of the best economic potential in Europe, as runner-up for the categories Southern Europe's City of the Future, winner for Turkey, and the most cost-effective European city. The city also has a football team, Manisaspor, which plays in the Turkish Premier Super League under the home colors of red and white and away colors of black and white. Manisaspor's home ground is the Manisa 19 Mayıs Stadı. Notable natives. Early period. Tantalus, founder of the city of Tantalus and father of Pelops and Niobe. Mermnad dynasty, House of Lydia, which ruled an important part of Anatolia in the 7th and 6th centuries BC. Greco-Roman period. Pausanias. Geographer. Possibly. Greek traveller. Geographer. And writer of the 2nd century AD. Saruhan Ottoman period. Saruhan dynasty, Turkish Beylik dynasty which ruled Manisa region in the 14th century. Lala Mehmed Pasha, Ottoman Grand Vizier of the 16th century. Jelenbevi Ismail Effendi, Ottoman mathematician and academic. Karaosmanoglu family, dynasty of regional lords. Iron, who governed with great autonomy between mid-18th and mid-19th century from their bases in Akhisar, Manisa and İzmir, and also produced notable members later such as the author Yakup Kadri. Karaosmanoglu. Gregory Orologas, Greek Orthodox Metropolitan Bishop of Ayvalık. Executed by the Turkish army in 1922. Turkish Republic. Ahmet Bilek, Olympic gold medalist in wrestling. Asuman Dabik, film and theatre actress. Kayna Erkin, football player. Demet Evgar, film and theatre actress. Hilmi Özkök, general and former chief of the General Staff of Turkey. İlhan Berk, poet. Queen Evren, general, military coup leader and 7th president of Turkey. Ruhi Sarıyalp, Olympic bronze medalist in triple jump. Şener Erdem, former volleyball player and head of Turkish National Olympic Committee. Yusuf Atılgan, novelist and dramatist. See also Mount Sipylus, Mount Sipylus, Selçukbaya University, Vestel Manisaspor, Sultana, Grape, Yunus Emre. International relations. In recent years, many studies have been conducted to inform the foreign public opinion. For this purpose, the website of www.manisahistory.com has started to be streamed within the scope of the meeting point of history and civilization. Manisa project carried out by the Manisa Culture, Art and Tourism Association, MAKSAT. By the Manisa Culture, Art and Tourism Association, MAKSAT. The meeting point of history and civilization. Manisa project conducted by the Manisa Culture, Art and Tourism Association, MAKSAT. Manisa is twinned with